Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to have you here, and welcome to our panel discussion this afternoon on the autonomous enterprise, hype or reality. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our panelists, and then we'll get stuck into the conversation. So firstly, I'd like to welcome Sarah Burnett, who's the Chief Technology Evangelist at KYP.ai. Sarah is an internationally recognized industry analyst and also the author of the book, The Autonomous Enterprise, which was just recently published, and she's going to share some of those insights from the book with us today. She has a number of roles aside from her role at KYP. She's also a founding partner and board advisor at Emergence Partners, and also a member of the Industrial Advisory Board at the Open University. Also with us, we have Harry Limela, who is the product owner at Wärtsilä. Wärtsilä build engines for power plants and large ships. Harry's an expert in product configuration and sales tools. He has an MSc in mechanical engineering from Aalto University in Helsinki, and has pursued further graduate research in software development, in AI, and also in machine learning. He's been at Wärtsilä for the last 10 years, and he currently holds the position of development manager of sales tools in marine power sales operation development. He's also been acting as the product owner for a ship propulsion machinery concept simulation tool, which is utilized for life cycle cost optimization, emissions reductions, value-based selling, and also consultative sales. And finally, last but not least, in the room here with me, I have Akhil Attar, who's the founder and CEO of Expert Rule Software. Akhil has a PhD in telecommunications from the University of Leeds. He's an AI pioneer and a veteran of decision automation and machine learning, which dates back to his early work with the late Professor Donald Mickey. Akhil has extensive experience in leading technical teams, developing AI software platforms, implementing intelligent automation, and also delivering consulting services, which he's done across the world to many blue chip organizations across manufacturing, financial services, telcos, oil and gas, and in the public sector. So welcome, everybody. Let me get stuck straight in, and I'd like to firstly start with you, Sarah. With your book, I think firstly, perhaps you can give us all a brief definition of what you mean by the autonomous enterprise, and then in fact, let's start with that. Perhaps you can just summarize that for us.
Absolutely, yes. So I define it as an enterprise that conducts the core of its business, and these are business processes that I'm talking about, in a digital and automated fashion. And it has staff that do fewer of the kind of repetitive, simple tasks that we all have to do in the normal run of the day. And they are also empowered to automate their own processes as well. And importantly, they take advantage of the data from all this digital activity. They do a lot of analysis, and through the analysis, they're able to identify opportunities for improving processes. They find opportunities for innovation and other improvements as a whole. And there are already some examples in existence, so it's not a fantasy kind of thing. You know, if you look at the likes of Amazon, Ocado here in the UK, and there are many fintech and challenger banks and financial institutions. Lemonade, the insurance company, comes to mind, that are doing everything, but a large proportion of their work in an automated way, including front office and back office, you know, where we then move from the digital world into the physical world. So what I call the phygital, well, other people also call it phygital, with robots in the warehouse at Amazon, say, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there's, you know, you've pointed out some of the real innovators in the field, but actually on the whole, it's been a long time coming, this, and there's been, you know, it's been a very slow and painful journey almost for many large enterprises. You know, especially considering that the automation has been a real business driver, strategic business driver for most businesses. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there have been several factors hampering progress. Some of it is the human factor. I think we all want the latest shiny toy, and we expect a lot from that latest shiny toy, which then doesn't live up to it. We also have a lot of over-promising and under-delivering, both R&D and actual supplier side. We do get that. But also, I think genuine problems like system integration issues, we've had scaling issues, we've had organizations that don't manage their data, and so they can't really pass good data from one system to another. So a whole load of problems, including a lack of skills. But technology is advancing fast. All of us have seen for ourselves how, first of all, AI has advanced in terms of things like conversational AI and image recognition, for example. We have seen how some decision making can be automated. Your firm does a brilliant job of that. We have also seen that the advent of intelligent automation with RPA making the connectivity a lot easier, so that you can pass information from one system to another more easily than before. So I think we're on the right path now, but it's been painful.
Yeah, unlocking the data challenge, I think, for sure. So Harry, let me turn to you. I know that you've been using AI related and support product configuration at Wärtsilä. And your products are hugely complex, so it's somewhere that AI can add make a real difference. Could you firstly just tell us a little bit about what you've been using, how you've been using that, how you've been supporting the configuration of products, and then also just share some of the challenges that you've faced and how you've perhaps overcome them?
Yep, I actually first time started with product configurators at 1997 when I started to do my master's thesis about mass customization. It wasn't actually yet in Wärtsilä at that time, but it was a small Finnish engineering company making industrial robots and crane systems to their customers. And yeah, we started to implement a sales tool for the robot system, or my task was to implement the sales tool for the robot system, which was typically just tailored by engineers to our customers earlier. And the idea was to, let's say, start to utilize product configurators for, let's say, improving the quality and removing the working process, human errors, and so on, and actually speeding up the, let's say, the process from the, let's say, creating quotations. And yeah, I was actually so impressed about the systems that I was quite sure that within 10 years, pretty much all the consumer stuff will be actually tailored for the customers. But yeah, I was definitely wrong. I suppose nowadays only cars are something which are tailored. But actually in this kind of industry companies, like for example here in Wärtsilä or many other places here in Finland, we are typically, let's say, those things which used to be tailored by engineers to the customers, some kind of one-off products, let's say now somehow automatically custom-made or at least partially configured using different kind of systems.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And what was actually the other part of the, let's say, the question?
Yeah, so some of the challenges that you faced as well, then, Harry.
Oh, yes. That's why I actually started from that small company, because when I, let's say, did my thesis, actually, yeah, we had a very cool new product configuration tool, and typically everybody wanted to play with it and wanted to, let's say, put something in it. But of course, the first iteration didn't fly. We were able to, let's say, produce a tool for our crane systems, which actually tailored those crane systems by the rules we defined. But the main problem was that that robot system just had a name or some kind of family names. But it was always something that we used our, let's say, building blocks like Legos. But yeah, if you are thinking about how to build a configurator, it will be very easy to build a configurator for a bicycle in a way that you can choose the saddles and steering wheels and front wheels and back wheels and frames and size the frame and so on, selecting the gears and so on. And when somebody has that bill of material, without any other instruction, you can assemble that bike. But quite often, let's say, the real modular systems can be like Lego bricks, you know, that Danish toy company, that regardless, you can calculate how many bricks and what kind of bricks you are needing. You have the bill of material. But when you put those bricks on table, you can actually combine them to each other in many different ways. So if you are selling, for example, Lego houses, it's actually a challenge in a way that you can calculate how many components you need, what is the price, but it doesn't bundle up anything. And also, if you have earlier, let's say, made those Lego houses or houses to people in a way that there is an architect who is designing the house in that place, then when you try to describe that, even in an intelligent sales tool, nothing happens. So actually, the main challenge is that if the product and processes behind is not, let's say, defined, it's very difficult to build configurator systems. But if let's say the products are, let's say, designed for in a way that they can be tailored, you have processes in place supporting it, then actually, let's say, probably the main challenges are to, let's say, spread the tool to the users and so on.
Right. Yeah. It's the complexity and the
typically it's not an IT problem.
Yeah.
In some cases, it might be an IT problem as well, but I suppose today it's not that often the case.
Yeah. And any comments on that, Akhil? Just I know that you've been involved in this for a while as well.
I think to be able to capture the expertise required to do the configuration, people underestimate how much expertise there is. As Harry said, you've got an inventory of hundreds of thousands of Lego bricks. The real skills is picking the 100 or 200 that makes the actual product that you want.
Right.
And that expertise needs to be captured, nurtured, and maintained, really.
Yeah. And then all the associated pricing and implications
Absolutely.
of that.
Down the line, yeah.
No, that's very interesting. So, Akhil, let me ask you a question. So, it feels that we're now at this inflection point. You know, we talked about it being a long time coming, but things are accelerating, as Sarah was saying. What are the things that have changed? What are the mega trends that you see in play right now?
I think we certainly live in very interesting times, and we are on the verge, or in fact have entered what you call the inflection point. And there are two really interesting phenomena or trends that are shaping this change, and both of them actually feed very nicely, Sarah, into your thesis about the autonomous enterprise, and actually, if anything, underpin it very strongly. The first one is we are seeing over the last year or so a real shift from what I call tactical automation, siloed automation, separate automation solution, into a real desire and interest to deliver end-to-end automation. Some people call it hyper automation, some people call it one office automation. But ultimately, it's really about blurring the distinction between back office, middle office, and front office, because automation knows no boundary. Now, the advantages there is that we can actually start automating workflow, we can automate decisioning, we can automate AI, and we can indeed automate conversation and complex human interactions. Now, I think one of to me, I mean, slightly biased in the sense that I've spent a lifetime working in automated decisioning, but I would say human automated decisioning is the engine room or the glue that can pull together end-to-end automation. Now, the reason I say that is because decision automation or decisioning can actually empower and completely intertwine with workflow. It makes workflow more effective. Human decisioning can capture the essence, the DNA, the policies, the strategy of a corporation. Human decisioning is probably the best vehicle to consume AI, machine learning, natural language processing, predictive modeling, because it can actually provide a sanity layer, a human auditable layer on top of AI. And finally, human decisioning can drive really deep, detailed, meaningful interaction with peoples, be it customers, be it employees, be it agents. So I do think decisioning play a central point in allowing end-to-end automation.
I think what's interesting there, Akhil, is you've sort of touched on two of the things that Sarah called out earlier on around skills and data.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really the bit we're trying to unlock now. It's capturing the skills that are in people's heads.
Yep.
And then accessing and being able to put to work the data piece. Sarah, just
on the second interesting trend, and that is, as we all see, there's a huge interest in the two areas of process mining or task mining, and also, if you like, intelligent monitoring and insights. Now, actually, if you link that also to automation, what you have is the foundation of autonomy in any control system, which is understand, monitor, act. So the understanding is the discovery part.
Yeah.
It allows you to discover the shape, the real shape of your process. What are the process maps? What are the variants? What are the KPIs? What driving variations of performance? What are the root causes? Understanding is absolutely crucial to redesign, reshape, and effectively monitor your business process. It allows you to monitor in a way that is intelligent. You monitor variations, compliance, KPIs, and risk. But more importantly, it allows you to monitor predictions. Once you're able to effectively monitor, then you can act. Act to ensure that you apply remedial actions to keep your process in check, performing as you should. And in essence, Sarah, that's the hallmark of autonomy. Understand, monitor, act. Now, actions could be automated, or it could indeed be involving a human in the loop, where you notify a human operator to take remedial actions. So I think these are the two trends that are grabbing or really getting attention, because they really do feed into the autonomous phenomenon.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So Sarah, just let's get your reflections on that, because it does circle back to what you were saying before about the.
Absolutely, and Akhil puts it so brilliantly. I wish I could put it like that. I think there is some of the problems that we have seen stem from not being able to do what Akhil just described. So going by gut feeling and actually not understanding where the real problems are in a process. And actually then just going for tactical things, and that has held people back from scaling up automation in their organizations. And once you have the insights, you can see exactly what is wrong and you can act upon it. I mean, some software systems, including the one, KYPs, they actually recommend what you can do, and some of them even come up with the business case, don't they? So you have the information, you have the recommendation, you can act upon the advice that you're getting. And that's the way to scale up. You use data, you make digital transformation decisions based on actual process data, operational data. And that's the way to scale, as well as what Harry was saying. I'd like to borrow Harry's Lego idea. What I've seen organizations do with but the ones that have achieved scale is a lot of reusability as well, being able to reuse both the skills that they've learned and the modules, having this kind of modularity, introducing that into their capabilities and being able to pull different bits together in order to create an end-to-end solution.
Yeah, and I guess it's also about accessing the information, having the ability to see what's going on and be able to change and configure and update without having to go back to the source code, without having to do real deep technical integration or more coding. I think that for me is the other piece of this that makes a big difference, right?
Yes, well, I've had a conversation with Akil about self-adaptive processes in future, but I don't think we're there yet.
Right. But at the very least, the business expert, the SME, going back to Harry's example, that person who has visibility of, the expert of what needs to happen can make changes quickly, easily, because products do change. Products are updated, in line with innovation, and you need to be able to respond to that with agility.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. Change is inevitable, isn't it? Everything changes all the time. And, we have seen through the pandemic how organizations had to literally implement change overnight because of the changing requirements. So how do you do that if you don't have the right information? So absolutely, to power change and agility, you need to look at your data.
We were talking to a client yesterday in financial services, and he said they couldn't have administered the government small business loans in the timescales they did if it wasn't for automation. They delivered it literally in 3-4 days. It could have taken, they would still be administering applications now if they didn't have automation. So automation, the ability to react with agility, it's completely transformational.
So Harry, what are your observations in the manufacturing sector? Have you seen this acceleration as well? Is that something you've observed? Are things going faster now, or?
Yeah, I suppose it's pretty much like a spoiling a frog in a way that, it has been definitely has been accelerating, but it has been accelerating all the time. So yeah. When everybody says that it's accelerating exponentially, I'm not actually able to see that, but it might be so that it's, let's say, just happening all the time, that we are just doing more and more and more.
Yes, I suppose when you're involved in it, when you're in it, it's not perceptible, but the outcomes, you only notice it by the outcomes that you're driving, right? Okay, no, that's
you don't anymore see secretaries pretty much anywhere. Everybody does all this stuff by themselves, by using computers and so on. So
yeah.
We always we had a jokes about the paperless office a few years back, because when we got the printers, we printed pretty much everything. But then it actually just happened that when you started to have enough monitors, you didn't anymore even know that where we have the printers. So
yeah.
It's just, let's say, happens slowly, or first you think that, it doesn't happen at all, but then it just, everything happens behind the scenes somehow.
Terry, I think you were going to add something there as well.
Yes, I was just going to say one trend that I'm seeing is companies, organizations getting more confident about using different components of intelligent automation and combining them. So they might have started very small with one thing, and having got some results, they're now looking at more technologies so that they use the full spectrum of intelligent automation solutions. And that in itself will power them towards that autonomous enterprise, because, you're not just doing your conversations, you're not automating just the customer contact center, but you're also doing other parts of the business, the transactional processes, etc. Yeah.
Right, bringing things together, and I think that was your point earlier around front, middle, and back office. That's functionally that's what it looks like, but actually from a technical perspective, it's how can these different technologies work together, and certainly been a theme for us.
I certainly think there's a role here for technology vendors to collaborate to make it easier for customers to actually pull together these complementary technologies and end-to-end automation.
Yeah.
And to spill into the physical world, as we're seeing with the likes of Ocado and, where everything's online until it gets to the physical product, where they have robots that are instructed by the basket, the shopping basket, what to go and pick. So it's literally connecting the digital world to the physical world. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. Things like experience, offering experiences to people where they might get some digital, or they might order something digitally, and then as part of that they might get a fantastic sort of gig offer, so they can go to see their favorite band, something like that, just combining these kinds of things and really changing the way that marketing, for example, happens, and in manufacturing, we have already seen it, you know, robots doing almost everything in car manufacturing, for example. So it's bringing the two worlds together.
It's personalization. I mean, going back to Harry's example, that's exactly what the configurator does, doesn't it? It's about taking a huge number of different variables and being able to configure that into a specific product. Okay, so let's move on.
We've seen somebody's desktop.
Yeah, I'd just like to come back to you again, Sarah, here. In the autonomous enterprise, what's the role of the human? What role does the human play?
That's a very good question, because a lot of people are afraid that they will lose their jobs when everything is automated, but I don't think that's going to happen. And that's because humans will be required to still do a lot of the management of the business as well as the automation. So I have this idea in my head that the organizational model will turn inside out, which is, at the moment, if you think of the organization as a kind of a circle where people sit and work on their computers, and I'm talking about knowledge workers in particular in offices, where they sit and work on their computers, and the computers are typically connected to systems on cloud, and they're doing the actual work, the actual processes like finance and accounting, HR, etc. In future, they will be sitting around an outer circle looking at the robots that are doing the actual work. They're going to be managing the robots and doing what Akhil mentioned, which is this kind of human and robot interaction, proper human in the loop interactions. And so they will be handling the exceptions, making sure that the outcomes are as they expected, making sure that everything's done fairly and correctly. But they're also looking at the data that they're collecting, looking at the analytics and making decisions about what to do next, how to improve things, where the new opportunities are, and actually even making decisions on the fly. If I can't have something in this warehouse, if I'm run out of stock in this warehouse, where is my stock elsewhere? Where can I get it? And that's particularly relevant to this kind of world of supply chain issues, as well as, of course, running the business, managing it and making strategic decisions. There'll be jobs for everyone as well. I have this, you might think it's very optimistic, but because of experiences, it's really important to get people with talent for designing things into the organization. So it's not going to be all techies. It's going to be people with different skill sets that run this type of organization of the future.
Yeah, I guess the optimistic view is that it makes work more interesting. It makes people spend more time doing transformation, doing change, thinking about strategy, problem solving, all of those types of things. Harry, in Wärtsilä, and from your experiences, are you seeing that? What have been the benefits that your teams have faced from the implementation of some of the software and some of the technologies that you've implemented, and how has that changed the way that people are working?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they don't that much change the way the people are working, but they pretty much help them to do their work.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's difficult for me to say actually how it's changed, because we actually started also here in Wärtsilä already at the end of 90s to build this product configuration system. So we have pretty much, let's say, from my perspective, we have had those always.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you are using such a systems, I mean, of course, the work is then in somehow different in a way that some people maintain the rules, and some people just, let's say, do their stuff, tailoring, for example, things to the customer projects by using those tools. Yeah. But the tools actually itself does the difficult calculation behind the scenes and so on. So most probably even the user doesn't even know what the tools are doing. They are just guiding them through the process. Maybe right. Sometimes that they don't get enough guidance, or somebody feels that it might be limiting. But actually, I think that it's not even visible for the user how much things the tools are doing for them.
Because I think that's
I'm also, let's say, I think that less they have to use time for example, doing that kind of things what they are using with the tools, I mean, more happy they are.
Yeah.
So nobody is concerned that if I'm able to do this more quickly, soon they lay me off. No, I think they will just think that, okay, then I can go home a bit earlier and enjoy the coming summer.
Right. Yeah. It's a different lens to the one that Sarah was
because
talking
I mean, pretty much, let's say the tool, let's say the work can be done with different kind of tools automatically.
Yep.
It's anyway something that you should not waste human time for that or energy. Because I mean, you are slower, you make human errors, quality suffers because everybody does it then in a different kind of way and so on. So.
Right. Yeah. It's both saving time and deflecting the work, but it's also the example you're giving is about enablement as well, and productivity enhancement and improving the quality of the output, because you're almost giving your people a supporting tool that helps them to make those decisions, that helps them to make better decisions, that helps them improve the accuracy of what they're doing. So it's not just, and I think it's a really important point, right? It's not just about automation, it's about skills augmentation as well.
Absolutely.
Right? It's really interesting. Akil, just let me round out with you. Any thoughts to add? Anything that was
on the human and the
anything that hasn't been covered already?
I mean, I guess starting from basics, an enterprise interacts with three human roles, either a customer, an employee, or a partner. And it'd be interesting to see how automation or the autonomous enterprise actually impact each of these. And I think it's positively. As Harry and Sarah talked about, obviously we focused on the employees. There's certainly an empowerment, an upskilling, augmenting what they do. In fact, I think as systems become more complex, as we need more fast decisioning, rapid decisioning, I think the fact that the machine can do 90% automation and refer 10% to the human operator, I don't think, as you said, Sarah, there will never be a shortage of roles for human operators. So there is empowerment of the employee, but certainly partner interaction. I think automation could transform the collaboration between corporations. So we talked about the autonomous enterprise, but that has real positive impact on communications between autonomous enterprises. So I think partner enablement, certainly automation can help partners do easier, quicker, more consistent business with the corporation. And obviously, when it comes to customers, then clearly customer satisfaction, the fact that they can get 80% or 90% self-service has got to be good for the organization, cost reduction, and good for the customer satisfaction. So I do think actually that in no way is that a threat to the human worker. It's empowerment, making the job more interesting and the experience more satisfying.
Yeah. I think the sort of the customer service landscape has grown more complex, hasn't it? And the need to improve that customer journey and that customer experience is just increasingly important.
Yeah.
And you can do that, right? You can use automation to give people those really personalized experiences.
Absolutely. The one thing we haven't touched upon actually, and that is, I think, going back to the autonomous enterprise, the autonomous enterprise, Sarah, will also break the current demarcation between enterprise IT and enterprise OT, like manufacturing. I think that barrier will be blurred, and I think that's probably something, Harry, you might tell us something about. Is there a trend to break that barrier between IT and OT?
Most probably, yes. I mean, I haven't seen it in my, let's say, work yet, but I mean, definitely it's coming. I mean, I get ads to my mailbox about it and so on. And also what might be coming, let's say, typically, for example, the world of games has been actually quite let's say, how would you say it in English? But I mean, way more advanced compared to business software in many ways. For example, presenting something visually. But I really think that also, let's say, the business software start to, let's say, catch that gaming world. And like there is now this metaverse coming, which is quite much hyped.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it might actually really change the things. And also this COVID probably helped.
Yeah.
Virtualize plenty of the things. So, or speeding it up, regardless, it's thank God start to be over here in Finland. But I mean, I think that, I mean, anyway, regardless, now it start to be possible. We don't anymore travel that much because different kind of tools has developed, and
that's very true.
We are able to, let's say, present our stuff virtually better and better.
We all feel the benefits of that for sure. All right, thank you. Let's take some questions from the audience, and the first one, I think it's one for you, Sarah, is what's preventing these projects from scaling? Is it the technology, or is it the people, or is it both?
Well, I think it's probably a combination of both. So we've talked about skills already, but some of the approaches could be improved. So what we see is, going back to the tactical idea. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having tactical projects, but you have to address immediate needs. But it's important to have a view towards the future as well, and have some kind of strategic objective as well. And within an accepted framework, be able to support projects that incrementally increase the scale of automation in the organization. So some of the companies that have done really well, organizations that have done well, have done things like definitely optimizing the processes, maybe using process intelligence in order to optimize the process first. We go back to the sort of the learnings of the early days of RPA, which is, you automate a bad process, you get a faster bad process, So there are those kinds of issues. And then not being able to cope with the increased output from one process further down the swim lane because the next bit hasn't been reviewed and optimized. If your one department processes things really fast and hands it down to the next department, if they can't cope with it, you're not going to get the results that you wanted. So it's this kind of joined up thinking, definitely reusability where possible, to speed up deployment, and really trying things and building up skills so that you can do more and more, and experimenting with new technology, not being afraid of failure, because chances are that the first couple of times you will fail, but try and learn from your experience and do better the next time. There are organizations that just totally refuse to try new things because they're so risk averse. I mean, that will make them totally left behind, won't it, if without actually trialing things and learning. So then they will never achieve scale, and some of that creeps into even the ones that are trying tactical things but not getting further beyond those.
I think that's right. It's the ability to prototype things, isn't it? Put things in, fail fast. I know that's quite cliche, but actually it's sometimes difficult to bring in new technologies and test them in a way that is safe, and that you can then use them and reuse them. And figure out how to apply them. And I think it's kind of something you said there is very interesting. It ties back in with what Kiel was saying before around this real-time insights, being able to act on real-time insights, and how you start to thread those things together. For me, that is such a key point, and it's something that we haven't been able to do, but I think we can now.
Technology is there.
The technology is there to do that. Yeah. Okay, great. I think let's just take one more question, and I think this one is for you, Akil. So, what do you think the role of digital decisioning platforms is in this new world? Is there a convergence going on? What's taking place? What's your thoughts on this?
I think decisioning, given that we are actually automating the expertise of human subject matter experts, the company's policies, rules, and strategy is an essential element of automation, because it actually gives confidence to the organization that the automation is respecting their policies and strategies, using to good effect the skills of their people, and providing an auditable layer to introduce other more sophisticated AI technologies such as machine learning, natural language processing, voice recognition. So I think it has an important role to play in that sense, that it could be the wrapper under which AI becomes auditable, explainable, and comfortable to business people to deal with. The other part, which I explained earlier, I think digital decisioning or decision automation has a real role to play in bridging back office, front office, end-to-end automation, because it makes the orchestration of business processes more intelligent, so it augments workflow very nicely. Workflow is never independent of decisioning, and therefore by making it possible to merge workflow and decisioning, I think it makes automation a lot simpler. But at the same time, and absolutely crucial, all the automation efforts going on at the moment actually involves bridging the gap between front and mid-back office. Again, to do this, you need effective conversational AI, and you need also intelligent smart forms, user interactions. Again, both are made richer and more effective by decisioning. So decisioning is truly the engine room, if you like, that glues automation together.
Yeah. We've focused first on the execution of the fulfillment, and now it's getting to that sort of level above, which is how you can drive business outcomes through decisions that are being made.
Without losing auditability, which is so important.
Right. No, thanks. Thank you, Akhil. I think with that, I think we'll wrap up. I'd like to thank our panelists, Harry Namella and Sarah Burnett, of course, Akhil Absar. Thank you, and appreciate you all joining us. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.